Good day, dear students. Today we will speak about the importance of possessing the right attitude in communication, maybe, or when you deal with a kind of urgent situation, or when you come across to different problems in your life. It is really important to have a right attitude. And of course, the problem solving matter depends on the right attitude. Or when you speak with somebody, if you have a right possessing positive attitude, of course, it's really helpful for you to find common language with anybody. So today, our lecture is dedicated to the right attitude, and we'll look through some details, some tips concerning this issue. So attitude changes everything. Of course, when you have the right attitude, you deal with different changes in your life. And of course, in your daily life, in your social life, or when you communicate in the community as a human being, of course, if you have right attitude, you may achieve your goal in communication maybe, or in everything, let's say, as it is given here. That attitude changes everything. So that's why you should remember, please take into account all the time that attitude is really important and significant in our daily life, maybe, or in our career, in our studies. So let's just look through the objectives. Understand the impact of employee attitudes on the success of individuals as well as organizations. So here, the first objective is about the career impact maybe, or the impact of employee, because the attitude of employee is really important for the employer or organization authority, because everybody has his own kind of position in the workplace maybe, or of course his success depends on his attitude. So that's why the employer should help the employee to have a right, appropriate attitude in his workplace, in his career, in his work experience, let's say. So next one, it is good to list and explain the ways people acquire attitudes. For example, it's just very significant and very effective when you list appropriate or preliminary ways when people acquire attitudes, different attitudes. And if you have more information about different attitudes, or if you're aware about different ways of acquiring attitude, it's good for you to have a great choice among different ways. Maybe to your situation, the suitable attitude is specific. So that's why you may choose one specific suitable attitude among other attitudes which you try to list and explain to yourself which is better. And of course, describing attitudes that employers value. Of course, if you imagine that you will work in a company, in famous company maybe in the future, so you should take into account the employer's values. And of course, you should fit that values of the employers if you want to be the best employee. And of course, it is really important to remember all the time. Next one, Learn how to change your attitudes and help others change their attitudes. It's very important. So it's natural during your life, enlarge your experience, and of course, have right attitudes. And if the situation is changing, you can change your attitude as well to make your approach more effective. And of course, when you communicate with others, others will also should change their attitude, because you and your partner in communication should find a common language altogether. And that's why it is very important to change your attitude depending on the situation you deal with. And of course, your partner in communication should also change his attitude. Maybe your partner in communication at your workplace, maybe, or when you realize different projects together, it's also your partner. And of course, your changes should coincide uh, each other's values. And in that case, you will be really effective in your career or in your, let's say, studies as a student. And of course, you should understand what adjustments organizations are making to develop positive employee attitudes. It is really important for the employer when the employee has his right positive attitude. Because in the workplace, if the employee has right attitude, positive attitude, so his work will be effective enough. So that's why you should take into account the values of the employer, and the employer should take into account the convenience at the workplace of his employee. Employee should feel himself really comfortable. And that's why the employee's attitude is really important. Positive attitude is really important. So all in all, these are the main objectives of having positive attitudes in communication, maybe, or in your workplace, in your educational process as a student. In realizing different projects, you should have right attitude. All in all, these objectives are really important to take into account when you try to achieve your goal in a very effective way, let's say. So, the importance of attitudes. So, attitude defined a thought accepted as true that leads one to think, feel, or act positively or negatively towards a person, idea, or event. So, it's natural to have positive attitude and negative attitude because we are human beings. Dealing with different life situations, of course, it's natural to have positive and negative attitudes. But it depends sometimes. If you have a right attitude towards the problem you come across with, or sometimes when you need to achieve the result in any sphere, of course, you should have right attitude. Maybe sometimes that attitude is positive, sometimes is negative, but of course, sometimes negative is just considered as if something bad, but not always. Sometimes you may have critical approach, or sometimes when you criticize something, you have a correct approach, right approach in solving the problem. So that's why your attitude should be correct. Maybe positive, maybe negative. It depends on the situation. It depends on the person being, idea, or event, let's say. An emotional readiness to behave in a particular way. So, of course, you should be ready emotionally. And of course, your behavior should be appropriate to the situation. And maybe sometimes, yes, we have emotions because sometimes maybe we are nervous, we are excited maybe, but anyway, emotional readiness should be taken into account because sometimes our behavior is closely connected with our emotional status or emotional readiness. Or sometimes we learn them and can change them. So, of course, as we mentioned above, attitude can be changed. We learn the situation, we study the situation, we analyze the situation, then synthesize maybe somehow. And of course, depending on the situation, we may change our attitude. We should choose the best attitude in solving different problems or in realizing different projects or in our study process. Sometimes we are busy with self-study. In a self-study, good, positive, strong attitude is necessary to achieve your goal in your studies, let's say. So let's just try to analyze the interconnection of the relationship, core values, attitudes, and behaviors. So, as we mentioned, core values. Of course, core values, they're really important because everybody has his own values in life. Maybe as an employer, as an employee. So that's why we analyze our values in life and then we work out kind of attitude. We choose the attitude, positive attitude, correct attitude to act, let's say. And of course, then our behavior depends on our attitude because attitude and behavior is closely interconnected, let's say. But the core of these interconnections between attitudes and behaviors is value. And different values may be the main and specific reason for having different attitudes. And our attitudes deals with our behavior. So shortly speaking, briefly speaking, behaviors depend on our attitudes. Okay, so core values revisited. So we mentioned about core values, and we consider that core values are really important in personal life of ours when we try to have a right attitude. So core values are unique values that an individual consistently ranks higher than other values. So core values, and of course, in our life, we have different values, but core values are really important to take into account when we have a very urgent and serious decisions in our life. In here, it is said that the individual ranks core values as unique values, the most important values, significant values in his life. And it's correct attitude. Because first of all, we analyze, we take into account our core values, main values, let's say. important and significant values which can change our life, which can change our destiny in our life. So that's why it's very important to remember that core values are unique values, which are really important in solving different life problems we come across with. So, core values are the building blocks of personality. You see, it's a kind of puzzle, let's say. We have different parts of puzzle, but core values are considered to be the main parts of puzzle. Others are also important, but not as core values. So that's why here our personality building is compared with blocks, with small blocks which are considered to be one unique, bigger part, which consists of small parts, small blocks. When we try to develop our personality. And of course, we should ask ourselves the following questions, and we should provide the answers. What are the highest priorities in my life? Of course, it's natural for a human being to think about the highest priorities. And these priorities leads us to an effective solutions of different problems in our life. So that's why we should just find out the priorities in our life, first of all, and answer the questions. What are they? Then, of these priorities, which do I value most? And of course, we now know what are our priorities. And of course, we should find out, we should decide what priorities we value most. That's very important. You see, priorities are closely connected with our best features, best abilities, let's say. And of course, it's natural for human being to use our best skills, our best abilities in achieving a good result in our studies, in project realization, in our just daily life. If you want to be a strong person, you should know your priorities, and you should just value the most of that priorities and try to develop your best skills, best abilities, let's say. Okay, let's continue. So, the powerful influence of attitudes. Of course, the attitudes has their own powerful influence. When we speak about attitudes, they have really powerful impact in our life. So that's why we should take into account. So people with positive attitudes are more likely to achieve personal and professional goals. Of course, when you have a positive attitude, it is really important to have it, first of all. And of course, you may achieve your personal or professional goals easily because you have a positive approach. When you have a positive approach, you have a good mood. You are on top of the world and you are satisfied with your lifestyle, maybe, or with your work, hard work, because when you have at the end of the hard work a good result, of course, you feel satisfied and you know that you have a positive attitude. And that's why you may achieve your personal and professional goal easily. Or people with negative attitudes find it difficult to achieve contentment or satisfaction in life. as we mentioned above. When you do not have satisfaction in life, it's very difficult for you to live your happy life. So that's why instead of having negative attitude, it's better if you have positive attitude. And in that case, it won't be really difficult for you to achieve your personal and professional goal in your life. And here we have a question, which is very important to ask ourselves, not all the time, but to understand the most important impact of attitudes. So, how do attitudes have an impact in the workplace? Of course, now maybe you are a student, you study, but some of you just work. And of course, in your workplace, you should feel a good satisfaction, maybe. And that's why your attitudes should be really positive. And in that case, your positive attitude may impact on your position in a workplace. And of course, when you have a good attitude, it means that you have a satisfaction in your workplace. And of course, you are happy to work there. And it's good. So, the information age mandates attitudes. So, here, quick, accurate information and advanced technology is not enough to retain customers. Of course, the information should be accurate as well. And here, let's just speak about emphasizers provide the balance between high tech and high touch as we move from the information age to the conceptual age. So, of course, today, as you know, that information wars are becoming more popular and popular. Now, the information may change the destiny of the whole country even. So that's why the information should be accurate. And here, it is said something about emphasizers, which provide the balance between high tech and high touch. Because when the information is really touchy, it may change the mind of different people. And that people maybe don't know the real situation because they couldn't see the situation with their eyes. But anyways, the high touch emphasizer may change their mind. In high-tech technologies, of course, today we're living in information age, information technologies age. And of course, we use different gadgets. Even now, via Zoom platform, we are just conducting lectures. And we have a chance with you to have our lectures being a little bit far from each other. That's the element of high technology. But anyway, we should have a balance between high tech and high touch. Because if your life consists of different gadgets, you don't have a life or communication in flash, of course, it's very difficult for you to feel that you are a human being. So conceptual feeling is really important when you communicate with each other. The next one, competitive advantage is now based on superior customer service. Of course, service is really important. And when you have a good service, of course, you feel satisfaction. Your attitude is positive. And of course, we should just think about the convenience, about the comfort of each other when we communicate in a workplace or when we communicate in education institution, maybe with professors, for example. Student and professors, they communicate with each other. And of course, the attitude should be positive from the professor side and from the student side. We should find common language when we communicate with professors as well. So that's why we should just take an advantage of this communication to make it more effective when we need to improve our knowledge, improve our experience, or improve our skills, for example, in our case, the soft skills, because you are future engineers. It's very important for you to know when it's necessary to have positive attitude. We spoke about problem solution, about time management, and today we're dealing with the topic right attitude, or we spoke about motivation. These topics are interconnected with each other. So that's why some elements are really similar when we discuss something about attitude, problem solution problems, or motivation problems. Anyway, as soft skills for engineers, this course is really important. And these issues are really important to know in your career, let's say, or in your academic process. So, how attitudes are formed? So, let's speak about socialization, process through which people are integrated into a society by exposure to actions and opinions of others. So, it's a very significant process. And of course, we live in one and the same social and community, let's say. And of course, our communication is integrated because we just act together sometimes. We just discuss one and the same topics. And of course, we have different attitudes, different views. But anyway, our attitudes are integrated, or our views are integrated, because we should take into account the opinions of others as well, as we live in one and the same community. It's very important. Because yes, it's good when you have your own view, but anyway, your views should be integrated with the views of other members of the society where you live altogether. So that's why our action should be exposed with the actions of other members of the same society where we live together. It's very important. You should remember it. And here, media influences. Of course, if you remember, we mentioned about high-tech technologies or about high-touch conceptual, let's say, attitudes in our life. So the importance of information, right information, even information is really powerful, which may change the minds, the opinions of different people easily if the information is really touchy. So that's why media influences are really strong today. And with the help of media, the authorities of different countries may have a strong impact on the minds of different people, even of other countries. For example, now Russia and the Ukraine. It's not the war between the Ukraine and the Russia. It's the war between America, European Union, and Russia. The Ukraine is just one country between. And of course, because of media influence, we may have different views, different attitudes. Some people, they blame Russia. Some people, they blame the Ukrainian. It is because the strong media influence or just the impact of the information on the minds, on the views of different people. And here we have a question. How does the presentation of messages in the news by media affect our attitudes? Of course, it's very important. And everybody knows that today in social networks, for example, in Telegram, in Instagram, we have different posts. And of course, that posts sometimes have a very powerful impact on our young generation sometimes. And of course, we also are kind of addicted to the social media. But anyway, you should take into account that sometimes media influence is very strong on the minds of people. But anyway, it's a part of our life. Without media, we cannot imagine our life. So that's why we should take into account the media influence, the powerful influence of media on the minds of people. And that's why here it is said something that the presentation of messages in the news by the media affects our attitudes. It's natural. When we just have news or when we receive the news in TV, of course, we just can change our attitude towards the situation, maybe in Russia, towards the situation happening in the world. It's natural because we're human beings. So that's why you should take into account these issues when try to have correct and, let's say, significant attitudes in your life. How attitudes are formed? The next slide. So, peer groups have a powerful influence on attitude during adolescence, possibly stronger than adults. Of course, in the age of adolescence, when we become adults in the process of becoming adults, we are possibly, or our, let's say, receiving ability is weaker. So that's why it's easier to change the people who are in the process of adultness, in the age of adultness. When we become adults, we have our strong position in our life, in the community. But when we are in the age of adultness, of course, it's a little bit difficult for us to find our right and correct attitudes. We are easily influenced by other people maybe, or sometimes different information may have a strong impact on our attitude when we are in age of adolescence. But when we become adults, of course, it's much more different. We have our concrete, strong position in our life, and our attitude is stronger than in the age of adolescence. So then, reference groups. We share a common interests that can influence behavior, provide a point of comparison, and serve as a source of information. Of course, as the peer groups, smaller groups, the reference groups are a little bit different. Here we have common interests if we study in one and the same group. For example, as your academic group is not so big, so you don't see each other very often, maybe, and we are just having our lessons online. And this is the situation for us today, and that's why the attitude is a little bit different. But our common interest is to share or discuss different views about this course, about soft skills for engineers. I'm your professor. I'm giving specific information for you to think about, think it over. And of course, my goal is to give more information as much as possible. And your goal is to receive that information and try to reinforce that information individually. So you see, our interest is common. And of course, behavior is very important in this case. We provide a point of comparison and serve as a source of information. So now we have a source of information. I'm providing you a point, and you have a chance to compare these points individually, maybe. And if you have any questions, you may just ask in Telegram channel, as I mentioned, every class, every lecture. So this is our communication. And of course, in our communication, we have common interest. And here the question is, in what reference groups could you belong? For example, it's very important to find out your reference group. Now it's easy. You are a master's degree student. So that's why it's easier for you to decide what group reference is really suitable for you. Okay. Of course, cultural influence is also very important. So as we are the representatives of different cultures, in even being in one and the same community, society, socium, of course, we belong to different families. We are representatives of different families. And of course, every family has its own cultural values, cultural traditions. So that's why, even in this case, we need to find out the cultural influence. The sum total of knowledge, beliefs, values, and customs that we use to adapt to our environment. Of course, it's natural to adapt to the environment when we take into account the beliefs, values, and customs, when we communicate with people who are considered to be the representatives of different cultures. We should take into account each other's values, each other's beliefs, because everybody in conversation should feel himself really convenient or comfortable. It's natural. And there is a question. What attitudes have you adopted from your national culture? It's important. Regional culture, school culture, ethnic culture, state culture, work culture. You see, it depends. So you should choose. You should try to find out what culture you adopted from, the beliefs, the values, the costumes. So, attitudes valued by employers. So as the Workplace is a part of our life because everybody should find a good job to feed his family, to continue his career, of course. And of course, the attitudes valued by employers. You should just take into account the values of employers if you want to be the best employee. So that's why we should take into account basic interpersonal skills, self-motivation, as we discussed during our previous lectures, openness to change. You should be open to different changes because sometimes when we get used to our routine life, we don't like changes, but changes makes perfect sometimes. And of course, when you open to changes, of course, it's very good. Or team spirit. You should have a team building spirit somehow. You should have the ability to work in team. It's very good. Or appreciation of co-worker diversity. So when you work in a team, so you should find a common language with your colleagues. It's very important. Personal honesty, of course, it's one of the best features which is valued by employers. Or health consciousness. Health consciousness. Of course, you should be healthy at the workplace. It's also very important, which valued by employers. And these are the preliminary, let's say, attitudes which are valued by employers. You just may find some other attitudes as well, but these are the common attitudes. Okay, how to change your attitudes. So, attitudes are hard, but not impossible to change. They foster achieving positive results by helping a person. So, changing our attitudes helps us to choose happiness, to embrace optimism, to think independently, to keep an open mind. So you see, everybody wants to live his happy life. So that's why we choose happiness. We embrace optimism. To have a positive attitude, we should embrace our optimism. We shouldn't be pessimists. We should be optimists in our life and think independently. So we should have our own view. It's very important when you have your own personal view. And you should keep an open mind all the time. You should be open-minded to everything. In that case, you will have a chance to make a good and positive, effective decision in your life. That's it. So, happiness. Happiness is the state of mind that permits us to live life enthusiastically. Of course, if you live your happy life, you mean that you are living your enthusiastic life. Or perceptions of the situation are critical. Sometimes we shouldn't be perceptive or we shouldn't be very emotional and sensitive in our life. We should be open-minded, as it was mentioned in the previous slide. So, happy people, let's compare happy people with unhappy people. So, happy people, they are more sociable, but unhappy people, they are self-focused. They have some psychological problems. They are focused on themselves only. They have some complexes. That's not good. Happy people, they're flexible. But unhappy people, they're socially withdrawn. Happy people, they're creative. And unhappy people, they're antagonists. They think about bad things all the time. They're pessimists. let's say. Okay. How to change your attitude? Embrace optimism. Optimistic thoughts give rise to good moods, which help develop positive attitudes. Avoid pessimism, which leads to cynicism. So, when you avoid pessimism, of course, it's good because you should feel optimism. You should be optimist in life. And there is a question, is really all relative? Or is reality all relative? So we should just think real, and of course we should accept reality as it is. Because when we live our real life, we should take into account the reality in our life. And you should be real. So it's very important when we embrace optimism. We should think for ourselves. We should avoid groupthink by not mixing personal and professional relationships. Evaluate situations based on our values. We should keep open minds, because when you open-minded, it's very good, and it means that you have a positive attitude. It's good when you know the view of the whole group, but anyway, you should have your own view, your own attitude, whether if it is a professional relationship with your colleagues, or in keeping an open mind. You should know that attitudes can persist in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So sometimes you see, when we have our own view, and of course, before having our fixed own view, strong view of ours, we have different other ideas, different other views. But anyway, we have a chance to choose the best one. Because sometimes we cannot afford of not thinking about other views of other people maybe. But anyway, you should choose your own view, your own attitude, your own position. Of course, you should be open-minded, and being open-minded, it means when you feel free in thinking about any issues, any problematic situations, or go more flexible by exposing yourself to new experiences and information. You should be flexible towards new information or new experience, or you should be flexible to changes, shortly speaking, briefly speaking. And when you are open-minded, of course, you accept new information, new experience easily, because you are flexible towards these changes. Serenity Prayer. Of course, it's just kind of maybe a strategy, and you grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You see, it's a saying. So it means that sometimes we cannot accept the things which we cannot change, but we should be encouraged to change somehow, maybe kind of things which is really difficult in our life. And we should be wise all the time. And the wisdom is one of the best ways out in such situations. So if your wisdom is really strong, of course, it's very important in this saying. And as we are limited in time, so maybe you may find it in the internet or anywhere and just know, analyze, and discuss it in more details. Okay. In helping others change attitude. Of course, it's not so difficult. Change attitudes by changing conditions that precede the behavior. Of course, when you change the condition for others as well, it's natural that their behavior is changing, or changing the positive or negative consequence that follow when the person exhibits the behavior. It's also very important because different consequences, may be positive, may be negative, may change the person's behavior. And you may change the person's behavior because you may have a kind of influence or impact on his attitude. And there is a question, do you believe it's possible to change others' attitudes? If so, under what conditions? It's a good question. If you have the answer to this question, it means that you understand this notion. Organizations' efforts towards improving employees' attitudes. So employees' attitudes are performance cannot be separated. It's very important for the employee, for the employer to change the employees' attitudes. And employees' performance will be positive if the attitude of employee is positive. And workers' attitudes are positively affected by respect and recognition from the side of the employer, interesting work which is given from the side of employer, or skill development. When they have all the conditions to develop their skills, it's very good for the employee from the side of the employer. Does pay affect attitude? This is the question which should be answered to understand the main issue, the main consequence of this, let's say, strategy. And the key terms: attitudes, emphasizer, socialization, peer group, reference group, role model, culture, cynicism. Of course, these terms or key terms are very necessary to know about, and you may find their definition in the dictionary. And of course, it will be easier for you to understand the main essence of these terms. And it was the last slides. And thank you, the students, for being with me. If you have any questions, you may ask in the Telegram. Thank you. See you next time.